Everyone in Red Hollow knew Silas Crow by reputation alone, and that was enough to keep distance, because the most feared rancher in the valley did not earn his name through cruelty, but through silence, through the way he never explained himself, never laughed in public, and never softened his eyes for anyone who didn't belong to his land. They said he had buried too many men, lost too many seasons, and survived too many winters to be ordinary, and when his horse rode through town, conversations ended, doors closed, and people remembered old warnings their parents once whispered. So when a thin, dust-covered girl appeared near the edge of his property one freezing evening, no one expected her to live through the night, much less knock on his door. Her name was Leela, though no one had asked for years, and she had learned to survive by avoiding men like Silas Crow, men with hard hands and harder reputations. But hunger had a way of changing rules, and the smell of cooking drifted from his cabin like a promise she couldn't ignore. She stood there for a long time, the cold pressing through her shoes, rehearsing a request she knew might end with her being chased away, until the door opened without warning and Silas stood there, tall and unreadable, eyes sharp as if he'd known she was there long before she gathered the courage to speak. She expected shouting, maybe worse, but instead he studied her quietly, noting the way she stood without asking, the way her hands trembled not from fear but from weakness. "You need something," he said, not a question, and Leela nodded, her voice barely forming words as she asked for food, nothing more, promising she would leave as soon as she finished. The silence that followed felt heavier than any refusal, but then Silas stepped aside and said one sentence that changed both their lives. "Come in." Inside, the cabin was clean, spare, and lived-in, the kind of place built for survival rather than comfort, and Silas set a bowl of stew in front of her without ceremony, sitting across the table as if guarding the moment. Leela ate slowly at first, expecting the offer to vanish if she moved too quickly, then faster as warmth spread through her body, and something shifted in Silas's eyes, not pity, but recognition, because the way she ate reminded him of another winter, another child, another failure he had sworn never to repeat. He asked no questions, but when she finished, he pushed the bowl back toward her, silently offering more, and Leela realized this meal wasn't charity. It was an invitation to exist without apology, if only for one night. If this moment has pulled you in, subscribe to the channel, because the story doesn't turn on fear. It turns on what happens after kindness is given. The next morning arrived quieter than Silas Crow expected, the feared rancher waking to the sound of someone moving carefully through his kitchen, respecting space she had not been told was hers. And for the first time in years, he didn't reach for his boots out of habit or suspicion. Leela stood at the stove, trying to return the kindness she had been given with the only currency she possessed, effort. And when Silas entered, she froze, ready to apologize for overstepping, but he surprised them both by sitting down and letting her finish. Over breakfast, she told him her story in fragments, not seeking sympathy, only explaining how she had been passed between families after her parents died, how she learned to disappear when she was unwanted, and how fear had become her most reliable companion. Silas listened without interruption, because he understood broken systems and unspoken grief better than most, and in her words he heard echoes of his own past, the boy who had learned too early that survival came before softness. When he offered her work, real work with rules and respect, Leela hesitated, expecting conditions or debts, but Silas only said that no one should starve in the shadow of abundance, and if she stayed, it would be by choice, not obligation. Over the weeks that followed, the legend of Silas Crow began to crack, not because he changed publicly, but because Leela existed openly beside him, working the ranch, learning, growing stronger. and returning every kindness with loyalty that could not be bought. Townsfolk noticed the difference, the way Silas spoke more, listened longer, and how the feared ranch no longer felt like a boundary but a shelter. When winter came again, harsher than before, Silas watched Layla stand firm against it, no longer a homeless girl at his door, but proof that one meal, given without judgment, could dismantle years of fear and isolation. And when people finally asked him why he let her in, Silas answered simply that everyone deserves one door that doesn't slam shut when they knock. If stories of redemption, humanity, and unexpected kindness matter to you, subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable Western tales where one choice changes everything.